Climate finance is important for several reasons. Firstly, I think it is important to recognize that the whole issue of climate finance emanates from the impacts of climate change on economies, on societies, on environment, and so on. And the reason why it becomes an issue is because the economic impact of climate, for instance, on Africa's economies, we are losing somewhere up to 5%, even more of our GDP to climate economy-wide. But we are also having individuals affected in different sectors. So for instance, in agriculture, you lose employment, you lose production, you even lose the permanent access to land as a result of climate impact. And so there are two issues here. The first is how do you support adaptation to the already occurring impacts of climate change. The second is how do you build alternative livelihoods, because livelihoods have been altered by climate change. But the third, particularly for Africa, is how do you support the development of the continent in a way that is climate sensitive or that is informed by climate change. So how do you design new systems of infrastructure? How do you design urbanization? How do you retrofit old infrastructure and all of those? This requires funding, and this is why the African position is that the continent needs to have at least 50% of the available climate finance should go to adaptation. The other 50 can go to mitigation. The challenge that is being experienced with climate finance is that firstly, there is not enough finance being made available from public resources. And secondly, that finance which is being made available is coming very slowly. The rate of the finance is very slow. And so those have to be resolved. We know that public resources are very stretched now after the effects of the COVID pandemic on global economies, as well as the ongoing impacts of the conflict in Ukraine. And this is why increasingly there is an emphasis on crowding in private finance. Private finance crowding in through various schemes such as investment in climate-sensitive sectors, investment in climate technologies, investment in carbon credits, and so on. But also, for Africa, another major challenge is the debt, a huge debt burden that is forcing the continent to look at other ways of financing not only their development budgets, but also their climate response measures. And so we have had, for instance, our organization, ECA, develop innovations such as debt swaps, debt for climate swaps, debt for nature swaps, green-blue bonds, and so on, which are designed to lessen the debt burden on our economies. But you also have at the global level the Bridgetown initiative, which is also looking at how the global financial infrastructure can be changed so that it delivers finance to Africa in more sustainable but also more affordable ways. So yes, finance is very, very critical, and I think this is why this summit is emphasizing climate finance.